So just a review, that's what we call advances in AI. And the style of it is, let's look at some news and then let's do something practical. Now, that's very easy to do every week because there is an amazing amount of things happening every week. So that part is taken care of. The other part is that we all started with Hugging Face. And then the history unfolded and OpenAI came to the scene. And by now, most of the news are about OpenAI. And they all, of course, are my personal opinion, but my personal opinion, I still have not seen anything that's worth your time. That's not ChatGPT. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm still very much amazed at all the other people. Now, I understand their logic. They're saying that, first of all, ChatGPT costs money and our models are free. Secondly, ChatGPT gives you the result, but they don't allow you to further improve it. They don't allow you to download the model and keep fine-tuning it. That's what I would call improvement. But even here, ChatGPT actually stole the term because fine-tuning in the regular sense of word meant exactly that. You get the model with the weights, you get the product, you get that the tuned model, and then you download it to your computer or cluster, because that will be a very computational intensive task. Fine-tuning, in other words, giving additional brains to the model. Well, I'm saying, it's because you can't really train somebody who is already trained, joke. But ChatGPT is what, 2015 started, 2023 is now, so 8 years in development of a product. And they did start with the model pretty much like all the other guys are publishing now. So if you believe me in my point of view, or at least consider it valid, then the guys who publish model today are 8 years behind, and they start from this point again and again. So that's a different discussion because we are not going to, as I told you, waste or spend any more time on that. Instead, we'll just look at what's new and what projects I'm working on. I'll show you my projects just because all the training that I will show you after that will make more sense. It will just be clear why am I doing this kind of learning, because you'll see how absolutely applicable it is, okay? So that's what I plan to do. And these are my projects. Plus I have 1, 2, 3, really 4 that I can't even talk about it. And it's natural. You would expect some projects you can't talk about this, but these are nice because I can. So number 1 is Moses AI. As presumptuous as it may seem, but I'm using it, well, personal because I'm interested, but practically it's because that's my great playground. Because here I'm based on my own summaries of every page of the Talmud, numbered in 2700, and clear, nice summaries. That was the goal to start with. But now it became, I can base my Moses Eye on that. So it knows that. I'll show you how it works. And I'll tell you what next. So I start with this, but then I'll show you other projects. Okay, let's click here. It is mosesai.org. I bought this domain for just $10 a few days ago, which shows me that there is no competition there. And it is, as you can see, fast API, which, by the way, for your information, I asked ChatGPT to give me a sample application in fast API. That worked, even though some of the things I still don't know. I cannot even force it to tell me. For example, I'd like to add more parameters, but it wants them on the path and I don't want them on the path. So that's a practical programmer problem. But basics worked right away out of the box. So in case you have not seen it, I'll show you how you do it, because amazingly enough, some people have not seen it. I went to ChatGPT. Now I'm using, okay, let me log in again. Log in. It wants your, in my case, Google on a certain account, and it's ready to talk. Now you see it saves previous conversations. So if I want to go to this previous conversation, I can, and I can be then in the context of this conversation. So just, I understand it's not very technical. That's not why you're here, but at least it's my personal, very personal experience. So I was reading a poem by Emily Dickinson, and I said, that's the poem. Can you explain it? I lost a world the other day. Has anybody found? That's very mysterious to me, and he didn't. He is not on the level of philosophy at all. Instead, he went into all kinds of talk. Yes, maybe no, but no understanding. On the other hand, and so if I don't want to show that anymore, then I delete it and confirm that I deleted it, because actually you see private information, what I was thinking about. Okay, but other than that, I can ask it here, sample app in Fast API. Now, Fast API, I knew it without any questions. And then says, sure, that's your application. It works out the box. That's it, right? Amazing. Yeah, it does work out of the box. Then I can send something like, do it as a lambda on Amazon. And of course, I'm using the fact that I know how to do prompts. That's no big knowledge. It's very easy. I know that it remembers the context, and I know that it is amenable to anything that I say. If I don't like something, I say, no, don't do it like this, do it like that, and it will do that. So certainly he says, and he's very self-assured. I think he has the personality of Ilya Sutskever, who is also very self-assured, but he never hesitates. And by the way, he speaks much faster now. Before on other computer, it was slow. So I need to find out, because really it's important to be faster. Okay, in any case, I'll look at it later, because really that is my next step, and I want to know how to do it in serverless application model, just new jargon. Okay, that's how I did this app. We're talking about Moses AI. That's how I did it. And it was secure by design, so it corrected me when I tried to think about giving people the notepads. It just refused it. It said notepads are too security insecure, that they'll get control over your computer. And even though I didn't care, but it led me to the right solution, because that nobody minds that it is, they give them that you give them hackers control over your stuff, because it's not that obvious. It's possible. Now you can ask any question. You can suggest any question that you want. If not, I'll invent something. Let's say what hot political question is Talmud view on slavery. Okay, no comments, just see what it says, not what I say. So first of all, what was it thinking about for so long? Well, I'll tell you the architecture, but it's getting additional information, processing it, It's pretty slow. You notice that this chat API runs very fast, as opposed to, for me, it was working very slow. So that yet another, yeah, I see the comment. I'll look at the comments later. So that is yet another thing to investigate. That's what you find out when you do a real app. First of all, it doesn't work as smoothly and nicely as the tutorial, and doesn't work the way you wanted at all. But it works, and the amazing thing is that the dream came through in the sense of that we were saying democratize machine learning. So there were great claims, but without the history, now it's real. So what did it say? It says the Talmud doesn't provide a clear stand on slavery, but of course it's now politically correct. So even though it got the right information out of the Talmud, he meaning ChatGPT, he also adjusts the final answer using its own filter. So let's read. But acknowledges its existence and discusses the roles and obligations of slave within Jewish law. In the context provided, it's mentioned that slaves are not obligated in the mitzvah of the sukkah, but they are required to perform other than mitzvah. So you see that you can imagine the architecture. Let me show you the architecture. So first of all, I get the query. From the user, okay? So the user query. Now, ChatGPT by itself is a nice engine, but it doesn't have the context. It doesn't know, for example, my summary. My summary of the Talmud is found right here. It's Talmud illuminated. So all of the tractates, 2,711 pages. I need to add some, I missed some, but a little piece of information is like this. So you see 3 paragraphs here, okay? What I implemented, I broke every piece of text into paragraphs. And I notice now that maybe it doesn't have enough context. Each of my summary is a little essay, very short, and maybe I should give it the whole thing. So the unit of information should be 1 page here and not 3 separate paragraphs. Pictures are nice. I don't think I can include them because this picture here has an enormous amount of meaning. It's an alternative point of view. It requires lots of thinking. Why this picture? What does it mean? So that I'm not trying to do. Instead, I'll use it as a link to the source when it quotes the sources. Okay, now you can read the source. But paragraphs, I'm going to change it and probably offer it as an option. Now, option, I'm experimenting with the options right here. So right here, it says with options. And right now, I only have the number of sources. So let's continue with the architecture. So you get the user query, and now you're kind of lost. If you just give ChatGPT a question, it will not really work for you because it will talk about not what you want. It knows a lot, maybe too much, but I wanted to first of all answer using the knowledge that I give it. So comes a new component. The new component is called Pinecone. Pinecone. Pinecone is a search engine, and I take all of my documents and I put them into the search engine. Then I do this query against the search engine and I get the result. Let's do it like this. That's relevant documents. Relevant docs. Now, there's a very important thing that I said nothing about here. Why am I using Pinecone and not another search engine? And in general, user queries don't work well against search engines. For example, I can go to that same blog. I have it on the blog. So here's my blog. And I can ask that same question. What did I ask here? Fast. Hey, where's my Moses AI here? So the question that I asked was, what is Talmud View on Sale library? But a regular search engine doesn't understand queries. It understands only keywords. So if I ask it the whole thing, it knows nothing, right? Because that's pure search engine. That's how Google implemented their blog. Instead, I should say slaves. Keyword search works, and I get all pages where the slaves are mentioned. Well, that's not what I really want, right? Because then I'm left with the work of reading everyone, understanding and summarizing. Well, that's what Moses AI does for me. Here, I give it the complete query, and it tells me according to the Talmud this and that. So let's go back to the architecture. You take this query, you use a Pinecone or any other semantic search engine. So to give you the proper terms, it is semantic search. That's one jargon term. It's also embedding. In brief, it means that I take the query and I find the entries based on the whole query, not on individual keywords. Well, that requires a lot of theory, which was developed in 2013 by Thomas Mikolov and became the foundation of Google Translate, for example, and later even Google Search. So you can look up those terms and find out more. Pinecone is a hot startup out of Silicon Valley that allows you to easily do those things. And even though Elastic as a company is amazed, how did they miss this? And they added semantic search. But let's not talk about that. Pinecone is a favorite right now for those things. Okay, so you take the query, you send it to Pinecone. A Pinecone gives you a list of relevant documents. That's what I'm experimenting with. When I said right here that I want to take the number of sources, how many sources should I give it? So my practical results were that 5 is too little. It doesn't get enough information from those 5 sources, 5 pages. And more than 20, it often errors out because there is a limit to the query that you can send to ChatGPT. 8,000 words or something like that, 8,000 tokens. And that's often reached when you use 20 pages, no more. So very interesting practical limitations. We're talking about high theory, but there are also practical limitations. That's what I found out. Now that I found this out, I will probably I already did, I made this a default. So that is always used based on 20 sources. In other words, that's the nitty-gritty practical implementations. Okay, let's back to the diagram here. So you take the query, send it to Pinecone. Pinecone gives you the relevant documents. Now, with these relevant documents, you need to ask ChatGPT, and you need to ask a question kind of, look, ChatGPT, this is the relevant information. Based on that and your English, which is excellent, give me what I need. So in other words, let's do this. So that's first step. Now, Chat GPT. based on context. Context is how ChatGPT calls this information. Whatever additional interesting sources you give me, he's calling context and then gives the answer. Now, let's see, nobody chats anything. I will pause at a certain point and I will try to answer your questions. But after that, ChatGPT gives me the answer, and that's what you read here, right? That was the answer based on this exact architecture. However, how do you do this? How do you say, ChatGPT, this is the context, give me the answer? Well, comes in the new component. The component is length chain. That is the new component, and it's again new hot startup out of San Francisco, and it allows you to talk to ChatGPT in this way. So you see the whole idea. You don't give it all documents. You have to massage them a lot, which I did, and you have to experiment on how to break additional information. Now, all of this work OpenAI did for us. When they trained their model, they trained it in this way. They gave it all information from everywhere, and that was a lot of work. They talk about what, a few hundred people there, a few hundred people working for 8 years, and a few hundred people putting out about 5,000 improvements per version, and it's major improvements. Some of them are groundbreaking improvements per each individual version. That's how much work is in there. Okay, and the length chain is not exactly what they do. So I think you now begin to get a grasp the idea of the architecture and what is possible, what is not possible. When you talk to ChatGPT in the window, that seems like magic, but there is a lot of technology and many layers of this magic. Okay, now that you've seen this, I will add one more word, a length chain. There is a website, you can find them there. Pinecone, it is a website, and you can find them there. And in the remainder of the talk, I'll show you more details. I'll show you the code, because code is no secret. And that code I actually took as an example from somewhere else. So all the more it is no secret. And then I will show you the new courses that just came out. Can you believe that yesterday there are two new, excellent, wonderful courses. So I wish they would be paying me for all the advertisement that I'm making. And these wonderful courses, I'll show you what they are. Okay, now I'm pausing to look at your chat. Okay, you're giving the links for Pinecone, links for blockchain, but LangChain, that's wonderful. And then Lauren says ChatGPT does not display its version number on the main web page. You have to view it via the ChatGPT menu. That is interesting. So you're saying that somewhere next to this ChatGPT, somewhere here, there is the version, right? Now, that's the default. That's not what I would use. So it's very strange. Let's go back to this. And so my default is GPT-4. In addition, I have a plus, which is $20 a month, and I'm absolutely not clear what it gives me. You might know. I don't think it's faster, and some vague promise, but people are like this. I pay for I don't know what. And honestly, I noticed this in my open source projects, and I give them the people a link to subscribe, and some of them indeed subscribe. Now, it's not that bad. I really tell them what they will get support, and they will get a better price the next time, but it's pretty much like what they do. Okay, so there is a version somewhere. Maybe you already told me where it is. Yes, on menu settings somewhere. Okay, we can find it. By the way, we can try to ask it, but it likes to be generic. Kind of what version are you? You know, first of all, he says, I have a memory loss and don't know what happened in the last 2 years. Secondly, I'm not going to tell you anyway. But thirdly, I can tell you, whatever the version is, it is changing about every week or 2 weeks. Of course, you never know what's inside. You also are not guaranteed the same answer every time. There is a way to control this. Performance, other problems. In practice, they have given priority to this window. I have no doubt about this. If I talk to it through my interface here, that's much longer. But if you talk to it through your interface, that's a different story. So let me go there. Well, you know what? Before we go that deep, let me show you additional new wonderful source of information. Okay, so I showed you this Moses AI. We'll go deeper into that. Caseify is the startup for defense attorneys, and the AI part is in the labs, but you know, should be out in a week because you have to be as quick as the other guys are. Today, you cannot spend any time on anything, and then I will show you how it works. Which problems do I have to resolve? They gave me quite a few documents that they can work with. And of course, there's a paper documents because lawyers, they write, they love to print and then give you the document. And that means I need OCR. Now, the OCR that I need should be of the best possible quality because I'm going to use it for AI. And why should I make the life of AI harder? Since that is a startup and hopefully they will get money and it's the quality that matters, then I know what I'm going to use. It's called SPOS because in my previous life, I was familiar with all kinds of OCR, and I will tell you that this is magical. And again, I wish they were paying for that because it is very expensive, but 60% of the world uses it according to them. So that is the practical life. And then I will have to use those police reports, OCR them, break them into some pieces. I'm not sure what kind of piece they are, and so on. But in the end, you can imagine the life of a lawyer. He gave me paper. I gave him back not only searchable documents, but also ChatGPT documents, so that he can say, what did it say about this? And doesn't have to read 100 pages. Okay, and then I have another open source Freed for free electronic evidence discovery, which of course will be able to talk to lawyers. That was my dream a long time ago. I called it smoking gun evidence, find exactly the smoking gun. But before it was give me the model and try to optimize it. Now, not anymore. It's ChatGPT. Here are the relevant documents. Just let's talk about them. Now, I also went and sent some of my programmers to Fourth Brain. Fourth Brain, that kind of things. They run this, and you feel good about being with them. And it's shop talk that's going on, and they run it every 3 months, I think. And I think somehow Andrew Ng is an investor in that too, but my personal opinion that Andrew Ng's courses are so much better. more polished. So I'm closing it. It's mentioned there, but I'm not going deep into this. Instead, I'm showing you what the great new things are there. So let me open this. This is a new course by Andrew Ng called Deep Learning. This, and now you need to be logged in, but the course is free. So here I am. As you can see, I'm already started. And who is doing this course? It's Andrew Ng and the founder and designer of this LangChain, which is a popular startup, but he is not as great as Andrew. So you can see that the guy is visibly very happy to be on the show. And he talks about his extremely popular way of building your AI applications. So if you came, here's the, oh, I don't have to paste it here because it is right here. What I will paste though is, again, I will give you the link for everything here, and everybody gets that link, and all the information that I'm talking about is here. Okay, so that's the course. I'll just give you very practical advice. I go through that course, which of course I recommend you to do too, but I'm also copy pasting it into my repository right here. I think it's here. All right, you see localhost, that's running local. And that is because, well, first of all, honestly, the course is open, but who knows for how long. Secondly, it's because now I don't depend on their server. You can even run it in this course. Where was the course? Here's the course. So you can run it, they talk and they also give you the working environment. You can run it right there. So if you're lazy, you can use their service. But if you are a little bit more technical, I would say a couple reasons why you would want your own copy. Here it is. One reason you keep the key, you keep the code. Another reason, for me personally, that's the only way to learn. You read somebody else's code and you forget it. In one ear, out in another, as the Russians say. And of course, Russians are a part of that in the sense that they started the terrible war, and you can't even say Russian without some kind of hesitation, should even mention this. And then what if Putin gets hold of ChatGPT AI? You know, it's a loaded thing, so it's enough that I mentioned it. But in one ear, out of another, unfortunately. So if I copy it to my repository and then run and then experiment, maybe that's the really way to learn, even though I'm not really doing anything. I'm forcing myself to learn. That's what I'm doing, not getting any pleasure of copy paste, but getting the real knowledge and hard work. Okay, that is course number one. Let's look at what course I said that we're looking at. This is LangChain, and you saw in my chat diagram what LangChain doing. It's allowing you to talk to ChatGPT based on your additional documents. That's where it comes in. What other course you might want? Well, amazingly enough, he gave us another course. So let's go back here. The other course that you might want is building systems with ChatGPT. Okay, let's click on that. And honestly, I have not done it yet, but again, obviously with what I'm doing, this is a treasure because I'm still in code here. I'm still in there, not really stealing, taking what is allowed to take, but I'm not understanding it. And this is a difference between, I believe, you coming here and we all talk and you just get the code from somewhere. That is a different story. You learn from them, you do it right. And you don't just copy examples that may be not the best possible architecture. and that may not work, but instead you get the best possible practices. Well, first of all, because that is really so, but secondly, because it has to be so, because Andrew A, he started Coursera, and his courses are bombarded by probably even millions of users. So if there are mistakes, they find them. Therefore, polished courses, and they are all available to you. Available to you. Yes, yeah, I know question and answer. Okay, so let's go back to our plan, and then we'll see when we want to do questions and answers. So what I showed you is some of my personal projects, and then lo and behold, the new courses that advance these exact projects. By the way, this repository, awesome ChatGPT, it's just a bunch of good advice, but it's coming from the same fourth brain guys, which are related. I would say maybe they are like um, first line soldiers, I would say. Andrew Ng comes in and does polished course, but those guys may be a little bit ahead and doing all kinds of experiments. That's how I would view them. They are related and they are, I believe, partners. So before we go to questions and answers, I think last time somebody asks, can you give 3,000 documents to ChatGPT, or do you have to prepare and massage the input? And that was last week. By now, I think the answer is quite obvious. Yes, you can. You can give 3,000 documents, and in fact, just as much as your search engine will hold, because you remember the architecture. You start with a query, you ask the search engine to give you maybe 20 documents. Well, if so, there's no limit. As much as your pinecone index can hold, that's how much you can do. And of course, it can hold quite a lot. So back to our question, can you do 3,000 documents? No doubt. And that's actually the number of pages that I'm supplying to the Moses AI. Do you have to massage them? Yes. And just right now, one more thing came to my head is that if I stop giving it 7,000 documents of smaller size, and instead I give it 3,000 documents of bigger size, I will run into ChatGPT limitations faster. So I will be only able to ask it to look at back to 10 or maybe 5 documents, and that's not enough points of view to consider. So you see, nothing is easy. Maybe I can improve the limit of how much ChatGPT allows me to do. Okay, and maybe I will keep breaking, but I will tell the source with each paragraph. So you see, nothing is easy, and it's practically all kinds of things. But yes, the answer is yes for everyone. You can stick any number of documents there. You will have to massage and prepare, and it will depend upon what you're doing. Now, guys, finally you get your question discussed. Before creating your embedding of document sections, such as paragraphs, to better support question finding the answer, would it help to add a series of questions to the paragraph answer? Yes. In other words, what you're suggesting, Greg, is let us massage it even more and prepare the data even better. Now, practically in that case, at least if I break that into paragraphs, I can borrow the title of the whole page, and the title has a short summary. In my case, let me show very quick on my case. So every page is starting with the subject. Now, I know that I have put a lot of thought in the subject also. So that really does serve as a summary. So I could add this to every paragraph. Okay, that's one possibility. And I agree. But would it help Maybe. So the answer is maybe, because that's exactly what you need to experiment with. Your next question: do you have an idea on the type of lookup indexing Python does? How does it compare to locality sensitive hashing? No, honestly, I have not looked inside, but I have a general understanding without looking inside. That is based on embeddings. What are embeddings? That's a trained neural network. So this is not direct algorithm like the keywords, simple, quick, but not powerful at all based on bag of words. This is based on embeddings, which means that every word is given a very long, about 1700 numbers vector. You set that this parameter actually when you create this index, and it has to be right in the sense that if it is smaller than what you send, it won't work. And I don't know asymmetric locality sensitivity hashing, but I have suspicion that's the kind of distance definition. But we also need the trainable embedding. Embedding is not a great word, but what it means is that you take text and convert it into extremely long vectors, and that's the story. So I think it's working in every situation. It's extremely powerful, and that is exactly what Pinecone implements. And I think Elasticsearch does implement the same thing, and they also call it syntactic search. So let's look at one more question, and then we'll look at the code. We have a little time. How do embeddings deal with proper nouns, named persons? Is their best practice for better result? Now, I believe the classical embeddings don't include persons, places, or things. They don't by themselves. But we know that ChatGPT is able to do PII. That's personally identifiable information. So in the end, they do this, but I suspect first you do embeddings, and if there is PI there, that will actually reflect in the embedding. Embedding results include a lot of knowledge. You remember that they are able to do things like Paris is the capital of France just by using the numbers, and it turns out that Paris is closer to France than to Italy, closely in the syntactic sense. But Greg, if you want to continue this kind of investigation, then, well, maybe just call me. Okay, so that is the question and answer so far. Also, I'll mark them as I'll just mark them that we answered, so that they're not here. Maybe it's not the right way to deal with this, but so that they're not there. Okay, but the code will also tell you a lot. So let's look at the code, which I took from another guy, and I'll tell you about this other guy. Okay, code. Okay, that's the code. And maybe we'll go back a little bit. So I show you some other code as a background. LangChain. Yeah, that was an example that I found on the web. And since this is such a popular thing and the guy runs the channel, then when I ask him, do you want to implement something for me? He says, yeah, 120 an hour consultation on Upwork. And then I realized, but I have the code and mostly I have ChatGPT that will work for me. So that's not the point. The point is, thank you. Okay, the point is that these are multiple careers that people make today Just be an expert or say that you're an expert, and you will be able to be very popular. Now, I'm more interested in real knowledge, and by the way, in giving that knowledge than becoming extremely popular, at least the way people do it. So, in other words, I got in touch. You can find, I think if you search for LangChain semantic search Pinecone, you will probably find it. And it basically worked out of the box. What I'm lacking right now is additional knowledge that I think I will get out of these. But it's implementing pretty much what I told you. It's getting your data, splitting it into additional information, sending it into the Pinecone, and then if you already created an index, then you can um, get for every question, you can get the similar documents. Okay, start with this, but that doesn't include LangChain. No, it does include LangChain also. This is LangChain is that when you then have your list of documents, they become your background information for ChatGPT, and then you send it to ChatGPT. Except that what I started with was, oh, that was my copy and learning of prompt parsers out of Andrew Ng's course. Okay, wonderful. What I showed you is all that I had for today. Now I have some chat, guys. That's not a thank you to me, but the fact that the knowledge is so available now and it's everywhere, and that I think you should be thankful to this knowledge that's so much available. Swapna, is it possible to share the series of examples? Yes, it is the course. There is nothing better than this course. I'll give you it back again because that is just a notebook. It worked for me. I modified it a little. It still worked for me. So I couldn't ruin it. And then I converted into Python script because you don't implement and don't put in production notebooks. You do Python scripts. So all of that is regular work that you need to do. But it doesn't teach you. You have to read and try to understand, and you're not guaranteed that this is everything correct what you're learning. Instead, let's go back to our major link. Our major link is right here, advances in OpenAI. So that is the link that I'm giving you first here, because it has also the history of our webinars. So some things are still valid. For example, we discussed how Microsoft implements it. Essentially the same picture. They take the query and they send it to a, what they call syntactic search engine without telling you what is inside. I put in Pinecone, then they get the relevant document, and then they present that, except that they don't tell you if they use LangChain. Maybe they're using something of their own, LangChain, or something of their own, but the same idea. Now you see the same design pattern. So if you want to see it, it's mentioned. You just search for Microsoft and you see what they do. But I think the most popular open source architecture is the one that I showed you. And the last two courses are what you really should learn. So when you're saying, I want to go through some examples, well, that's these. And a lazy man just goes there and listens and runs it online. And just a little bit more work-loving guy or girl will copy and paste this. And in fact, Andrew Ng himself stops many times and says, no, it would be good if you stop listening to me and run some of those examples. Was that the question you asked? So to be real nice, I will also give you these links, because who knows, if you go to the major link, these are the two courses. And then if Andrew Ng tomorrow finds 1 million and 2 users, that is our 2 users. Okay. All right, stop share, and you can ask your questions. Okay, maybe no questions, because that was a lot of information. I can check by myself. It was a lot of information for me. And since I have other things to do, then I don't code as much as I would want to. Maybe that's why it's overwhelming. Maybe it will be easier for you. Your question, you were looking for folders where you tried to call folders or 102. So some of that I don't open. Yes, you're talking about, well, doesn't matter. I don't want to open it just because I copy so much from other people. It's open, it's allowed, but I'm not sure about the license, what I'm supposed to do. So I'm definitely allowed to copy it for my own use, but I gave you the right sources. I call it a 102. In your case, you don't see it in their courses as a 102. Instead, they have, let me show you what they have. Share screen. Instead, they have like this. They don't number them, but these are the same. So if you really want to go slow, take the deep learning AI course and go back in our webinar here, and you will see all background additional information. The only thing is that today you don't even need the background. Everything is so easy. ChatGPT really democratized this learning. So there are still some woods that you may get into, but you don't have to. You can start very cleanly on the main road and only later go to each individual path. Okay, thank you very much. I see. What other open source vector? Yes, that's a good question. I didn't look. I know there are vector databases is what you're looking for, and of course Google will give that to you. But I didn't look beyond Pinecone because it just looks the prevalent. All right, thank you very much, guys and girls, and wishing you a very good week. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your questions. That helps me a lot. Goodbye.